Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker Royal Ascot preview podcast and video. This is for the Wednesday of Royal Ascot and I'm joined by two experts. To my right we have professional punter Mike Spence. Welcome back to Mike, thank you very much for coming.
No worries.
And to my left it is the man himself, Andy Holding, who writes a Oddschecker's very own Tipster, writes a daily column for us, a very profitable column, and will be doing so for the whole of Royal Ascot. So make sure that you keep up to date with that, although we're hoping he will unleash some bets for us here today for the Wednesday of Royal Ascot. Let's get straight into it then, and the first race of the day is the Queen Mary, where we have final song at 11-2, Good Vibes at 8-1, Anna's Fast 8-1, Ickworth 8-1, Kimari 8-1, Divine Spirit 10-1, 14-1 Bar. Worth pointing out here that we're recording this on Monday morning, actually Monday afternoon, it's just gone 12 o'clock, so the declarations are only just in, so these are kind of the market has just been formed with the confirmed runners. Very open Queen Mary this. Mike, I'll come to you first, and who do you fancy here?
Two for me in here. I like Theory of Time quite a bit. Charlie Appleby has a few runners in the race, and James Doyle has picked this horse. She won on the same night at Windsor as Divine Spirit. And I was very taken with Theory of Time. She knew her job really well, won very well, and she looks incredibly professional. I don't think the drop back to 5 will be any problem for her. There's a lot in here which are going to go very fast, and I think she'll just get a lovely toe into the race, and her stamina will see her finish out well. I think she'll go really well. There's a few Wesley Ward horses in here that were sure to go off fast. There looks a lot of pace high. So I probably think you want to be high in this race. I'd be very interested in Raffle Prize if they didn't make the running, which they might well do. She was second to a horse, a filly called Daya, who I think I've pronounced that right, who's going to run in the Albany on Friday. I think that's very good form. She then came out and won at Chester last time out. She went off far too hard, but her ability saw her through and she kept on to win. Frankie Dettori is a very good booking there. Frankie, I don't think will make the running. The only thing is I'm not sure she's drawn around many good horses, so I think she might have to tuck in and to have her best chance, sit behind some of the Wesley Ward horses who are drawn a bit closer to the middle. But saying that, Theory of Time's drawn 16 here, she's right in the middle. And I really like her. I think she'll get us off to a good start on Wednesday.
Theory of Time 14-1 with William Hill. They are 4 places Ladbrokes at 12-1, and Raffle Prize 25-1 pretty much across the board at the moment. Andy?
Yeah, this is about as big a headache as you could probably get from a time perspective. All the best fillies are here. Nothing shied away. Godolphin, amazingly, have decided to run 3 of their best. Which makes life even more difficult. And then if you chuck into the equation a certain Wesley Ward, gate crashing the gig, it does become a very difficult balancing act. Obviously we don't know the ground, we don't know the draw. This is the first time we've really got a big maximum field on the straight track, 28. So I don't think we're in any rush to play at the moment until perhaps the dust has settled after day one. But I'll deal with the ones who I think have got the right kind of numbers and mentality for this race. I think Theory of Time is definitely one of them. I think James Doyle has chosen the right one there, if that was the case. I think Raffle Prize is definitely a player. Mike's quite right to point out that she did show incredible tenacity, having been taken on for the lead at Chester. She had no right to keep going the way she did, having burned up a lot of energy. And her form ties in quite nicely with that nice horse of Roger Varian's. And her time figures have been very good. I think Liberty Beach has been overlooked. I think some firms have got 33-1, which is an insult. Signor, what was her name? That Costello, was it? Or the one that won the race last year for the same yard?
Signor.
We got it.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
the Queen horse.
Signor.
Yeah, yeah. The Queen horse that won the race last year. Many apologies to connections of John Queen's filly.
Signor Caballero.
That's it, yeah. Caballero. She won the Hilary Needler at Beverley in a decent time, but she did it, stuck out on the wing early on. She got no cover and still quickened up quite smartly to win. Beat a good horse in Rose of Kildare. And obviously Good Vibes won that very good race at York as well. She'll be very suited to the way this race is likely to pan out. Harry Bentley will be given the instructions to hold on to her and come through strong. She was very good. She's the kind of Ascot, embryo horse that you want. Horse that's going to have nothing to do with early speed and then dive bomb the lot at the finish. So I think she'll be there or thereabouts, and the final song's in there as well with a chance. I think this race is a real headache. I'll end up probably putting up 2 in this each way because of the prices.
I love it. Everyone else said this race is a headache. I'm going to steer clear. This race is a headache.
But I'm going to have to be duty bound to tipping this because I'm being a time figure man. I've got to try and.
Of course.
But it'll be a classic case of I've got 5 or 6 to choose from, and on the day I'll end up picking 2 because of the draw, the ground, and the price. And at this stage, I've mentioned hopefully at least a couple that I'm going to put up, but I couldn't say, right, these are my definite 2.
Yeah. So more work to go into the Queen Mary there, but a couple of horses to put in.
But I hopefully I've mentioned a few there that I'm likely to be choosing from.
Yeah. On now, so then let's get to the Queen's Vase. Western Australia 7-2 favourite. Jalmood 13-2. Norway is around about the 5-1 mark. A bit of 13-2 around, I think, if you're quick. I don't know how long that's going to stick around, given the 130 with Ladbrokes, and then 12-1 bar. Again, the market a bit of a mess because of decks just coming in. But Mike, where are you looking at?
I think this is a poor race for usual, a really poor race. The likes of Western Australia are a favourite here. I mean, he beat Pythian last time, he runs again, but Pythian hasn't won since he won his maiden in July. I mean, he does look a strong stayer, but he's really nothing special. And Norway is interesting. I don't know who Ryan Moore's going to pick yet because Aidan is typically slow with his jockeys. He looked very slow at Chester, but this is a slow race. It's 1 mile 6, and he's a classy horse. I'd be more inclined to go with Jalmood, who I thought was very impressive when he won at Newmarket, and he won despite looking beat last time. I thought he got given a bad ride by Pellier. At Longchamp, I just think he could be a lot better than what he's currently showing. He's unraced. Sorry, not unraced, unexposed, sorry, and he'd finished second, ironically, behind Moonlight Spirit, who also runs in this race. I think Jalmood's got more potential than him, and James Doyle has picked him. I think he's probably a very solid price and will run his race. He's 13-2 at the moment with Ladbrokes and Coral, and 11-2 in other places, 6-1 with Bet Victor. I think he's a generous price in what looks a weak race here. It doesn't look up to the usual standard. It's not a Group 2 field here. It's more like a listed race really, or a weak Group 3. And Jalmood could just be better than these. He obviously won a Group 3 last time, and he comes here listed last time, and he's obviously unpenalised. But I think he sets a good standard, and he'd be my pick at the prices.
So Jalmood setting the standard then 13-2 around at the moment. Andy, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Mike's summed it up in a nutshell, really. This is a really, really poor renewal of this race. With the greatest respect to the runners, and in particular Western Australia, who's favourite, they wouldn't lay a glove on some of the horses that have won this race in the past. That said, there's only really 3 trainers who traditionally you need to look at here: John Gosden, Mark Johnson, and Aidan O'Brien. They, I think, have taken this race the last 10 to 12 years. And it's surprising that John Gosden, who had 2 or 3 entered up, hasn't run any of them. He's running them in handicaps, so I think that's worth bearing in mind when they run later on in the week. Mark Johnson's got 2 representatives, but they're certainly not the 2 that I thought he would go for. He's got Nayav Road, who got beat fairly readily last time out, and the Max Wican, who is only rated 94. So it's a bit of an oddity that some of the bigger trainers are actually not really having a right crack at this. I certainly respect Western Australia. His time figure was all right the other day, but Mike's already pointed out he beat Pythian, who isn't, nothing special. Barbados doesn't look anything special on what I've seen of him so far, and Norway was a bit of a foot soldier in the Derby. He was ridden by Jamie Spencer, but he was second. I think he was there to force the pace for Sir Dragonet and the Anthony Van Dykes of this world. He went off a 40-1 shot. So he'll be ridden differently with a more in a way that he's going to try and win this race rather than just go through the motions. I do think Joseph O'Brien's got a nice horse in the shape of Eminent Authority. I think he's all right. He got beat third of 3 at Leopardstown last time out, but it was a tactical event. He didn't get suited by the way it panned out, but he looked a thorough stay the time before when he won in a good time at Listowel. If I was looking outside the box at one from an informed stable that doesn't represent the usual winner-finding methods in this race, I think he could run quite well. But again, at the moment, I haven't really got my betting juices flowing for this race yet because I just think it's such a poor race.
I normally keep my opinions to myself, but given both of your opinions seem to be that it's a rubbish race, I'm going to just flag up one horse and you can tell me that I'm wrong. Innate the Great for Archie Watson. Ran behind Anthony Van Dyke in his only run this year at Lingfield. Came second in the Cheshire last year as well, so we know goes okay at the track, and then came third as well in a listed race in July. So maybe one there who could just pick up the pieces if it is a poor race, who could be progressive, and for a trainer who's obviously enjoying an unbelievable season as well.
I think the max we can is worth pointing out. He's 20 to 1 with Bet365. I think he's got a very good chance each way if it didn't rain. He just seems to prefer faster ground. He won his first 2 starts well. And then he was second behind Technician, which giving him quite a lot of weight at Leicester, which I don't think was a bad performance because Technician went on to win a Group 3 in France over the weekend. He was trying to give him £10 that day at Leicester. And most recently he was second behind Durston, who was a good winner at Chester on the weekend as well. And that was over a mile 6. He does have a bit to find on the figures, but as we keep saying, this is a really poor race. And at 20 to 1 with Sylvester on it, as you mentioned, Mark Johnson, he'd know which horse to run in here, and he's not the fastest of horses, which is why they're obviously. I think he's a lot better than 94. Whether he has the class to step up and win this race, he needs to prove that. But at 20 to 1 each way, I'd be willing to chance him.
20 to 1 with Bet365, that is. And Labrix and Coral came out 10 to 1 after the decks were announced. They've clipped him into 8, so somebody's obviously been taking a bit of 10s there.
Yeah, prices are a bit all over the place, but it's still 18s in a place as well. And
yeah, exactly.
I think at 90, he's better than 94, and the fact that he is rated 94 is probably the reason why he's that price. But I think that rating is probably wrong, and he's better than that.
So now on to the Prince of Wales Stakes, and hopefully you guys won't say this is a terrible race, but we've got Magical at 2 to 1 favourite, Sea of Class 11 to 4, Crystal Ocean 9 to 2, Waldgeist 13 to 2, and then Zabil Prince 20 to 1, 50 to 1 bar. Some cracking horses at the top end of this market. Andy, I'll come to you first here. As a race itself, it looks like an absolute cracker, but how do you view it as a punting proposition?
Yeah, I think for the purists, this is arguably one of the best races of the whole meeting. Others will have their own little specialities, sprinters. The King's Stand will obviously be appealing to some, and some are like the Gold Cup horses later on in the week. But this, as far as pure quality, from top to bottom, is easily one of the most mouth-watering. It's going to be interesting tactically because, to my eye, there's no obvious front runner. Maybe Hunting Horn has been put in there, arguably, to make the pace for Magical. I don't want to sort of preempt any sort of tactics and what might be going on without the Aidan O'Brien camp.
I'm sure if Aidan's listening, he'll say, yeah, it's a great idea, Andy.
Yeah, sure. Sure he's all ears. Magical's got a great chance. She's won here. She won over a mile and a half. She's been brilliant so far this season, albeit she's just basically turned away Flag of Honour 3 times, which, they've basically been 3 just time trials. But this will obviously be deeper. A bit disappointing in the. Did she run in the? I think she ran the Arc, didn't she? From off memory.
No,
she didn't.
No, she did. She was a bit unlucky though. She
didn't get the closest runs in it. Yeah. So on that form alone with Sea Class, that might be a bit of a difficulty holding that form line up. And of course, Sea Class comes in off the back of no runs, and is she better over a mile and a quarter? I think what you've got to slot into your thought process is, I want a hard-knocking mile and a quarter horse that's sort of been there, done it, is ready now, and has got great track form, and that's Crystal Ocean. He just ticks every box. I think. I haven't seen any prices, but if he was in and around the 4 to 1 mark, and I could get quarter the odds on the day, even 7 to 2 quarter the odds.
So 9 to 2, 50 odds at the moment.
I mean that is a standout each way bet. He dines at the very, very top table. Yes, he probably just falls ultimately short against the absolute brilliant horses. Your likes of Enable, your likes of Cracksman and Poet's Word, who turned him away in the King George after a great duel. but he hardly ever runs a bad race. And the Stout team are in arguably better form than they've ever been. Ryan Moore knows him inside out, which is a bit of a shame, but he's always not a bad deputy. I'd certainly give Waltgeist a chance. He looked as good as ever the other day when he won in France, having slightly been a bit underwhelming in a few races last year, albeit he was slightly unlucky in the Arc when he was staying on 4th or 5th. So a fascinating race, like I say, tactically more than anything else. But again, if similar to Mabs Cross, I'm eyeing up an each way double here, Mabs Cross and Crystal Ocean.
Sounds like you're making up your mind as we're talking here about your...
Sort of even money the one and 2 to 1 to place the other.
Yeah.
I mean, £100 each way double return £600, which is,
it's not too bad, is it?
Not too bad at all.
We're not advocating that level of stake.
No, I'm just,
Spence.
yeah.
So take what you can afford.
Yeah.
Mike, do you agree with the Crystal Ocean each way angle, or have you got another one that you're eyeing up?
I can see it. The prices look about right to me. The one that I would love to have confidence in backing is Wildgeist. I just think with the rain coming, he's just always, I think he likes soft ground. I think he's really improving, but he's never won outside of France, and it's a huge negative. There's, for some reason, this horse just doesn't seem to be as good when he travels.
He got beat odds on here, didn't he, in the past? He was at 4 to 7
came
shot.
over in the King George, didn't he?
Got beat by Daniel Kodiak.
That's it, Daniel Kodiak beat him.
Yeah.
I know.
But you look at that, and he obviously got beat by Danehill Kodiak, but some of his form is good enough to really mix at the top table. But he's not done that away from France. He got beat in the Irish Derby as well.
But you look at obviously he's come over twice, once in the Irish Derby, once at Ascot. He's been beaten 2 lengths and a neck, so it's not as if he's bombed out. I mean, I know that he hasn't run to true form, but
getting beat by Danehill Kodiak's not really the best trial winning this race.
No,
but
albeit in October 17.
I think it's competitive. For me, the prices look about right. I CF Class, I wouldn't want to be with at the price because she hasn't run this year, and I'd just be happy to let her run at that price. I can definitely see Crystal Ocean's. He's very fit. If it was to get really soft, you'd have to wonder about quite a few of them if it went really soft.
He's one of soft, isn't he, Crystal Ocean?
He'd handle it. I don't think he's quite as good when it gets really soft, though.
No.
And it might play into the other hands more. But you get to the day and they miss those thunderstorms. I think.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out now
agree.
that the rain forecast does suggest that kind of Tuesday overnight and then Wednesday morning is when the rain will come if it does. So all of this comes to the caveat of not being sure what the conditions are going to be come Wednesday. But as you say, I mean, we can't really speculate now. So if there
no, exactly. I just think that's right. I think if it was to go really soft as well, I'd say there has to be a question mark over whether Sea of Class will actually run. So if you're doing your each way double, just be careful, because I don't think they'd be wanting to run her on really soft ground and you'd be down to 2 places because there's only 8 declared at the moment. But Ascot might, as we've said Ascot might get a lot of rain. If they do get a lot of rain, it could well be heavy ground, because it's obviously it's much softer on the round course at the moment. I think this race you need to really watch the weather overnight. Check who turns up, check what it's going to be, and at the moment the prices look about right to me. But I certainly wouldn't put anyone off Crystal Ocean. He's very, very tough, very solid.
So Crystal Ocean at 9 to 2 seems to be the selection here. But be careful, of course, because if one does come out and there are only 7 runners, you'll only get 2 places for your each way bet. So it could be worth waiting till closer to the off on that one. Depending on whether or not the price holds up. The Duke of Cambridge now, the 4th race of the day, and Rauder is the 4 to 1 favourite. I Can Fly is 5 to 1 second favourite. Voracious, a horse that should come with a health warning when you're backing it, given the way it travels, is 7 to 1. Pretty Baby 7 to 1. Agritera 8 to 1, Ananarium 10 to 1, 14 to 1 bar. Andy, another open-looking race in the Duke of Cambridge. Where are you seeing the value?
Well, I do think that race that was run at Kempton early on in the season, I think it was a listed or Group 3 on the old weather, was probably the key to this race. Agritera beat Preening, beat Rawar. The general consensus is that Rawdar was a shade unlucky, or the way the race developed suited Agritera, who was, for her, ridden a little bit more prominently than normal. I mean, I remember when Agritera landed a big punt in the Sandringham last year. It was a typical Spencer last to first job. She could be ridden any way as well, Agritera, but like I say, going back to Kempton, it was a period where there was a lot of dry weather, and that surface at Kempton sometimes gets very, very dusty and powdery, and it makes life difficult for those coming off the back of the pace. So it definitely played into the strengths of Ed Walker's horse. Again, a lot depends on the conditions here, what they're going to be like. But if it isn't too bad, I certainly do think that Agritera's got every chance of upholding that form. It's not in tablets of stone that Rawdar would be guaranteed to turn the form around. And I do think Preening looks massively overpriced at 25 to 1, considering that she split the pair on what I can see on merit that day. She came out with a real strong finish. She's run well here before as well. She was second to Clon Cooley last year. And the Fanshawe team seems to be in good form this season. He's got some nice 3Ls coming through, one that dead heated yesterday at where at Doncaster, wherever it was.
It's Salisbury, wasn't it?
Beg your pardon, Salisbury. So I would suggest at the prices in front of me here, perhaps a couple of each way bets. You can back Agritera each way at 8, and you can back Preening each way at 25s. I don't think there's any harm in that project.
Both finishing ahead of the favourite Rauder in that race at Kempton that you mentioned.
Well, exactly, yeah. It doesn't really make
stack up,
that much sense to see why there is such a massive discrepancy in them.
Mike?
I like Rawdar. She was fat as can be at Kempton that day. I thought she was just ridden with the season in mind. That definitely wasn't her derby, whereas I felt the first and second Agritera and Preening were primed for that day. I really like this horse. I think a stiff 8 would just about be okay. When she won at Newmarket last year, it was very soft ground. They called it good to soft, but it wasn't really. I think the ground will be perfect for her. Any rain won't be a problem either. She just looks to me like a stout improver. I mean, I think she's got so much going for her this time. I think she's a very solid favourite. Voracious is interesting. She, as you pointed out, I mean, she travels like.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And I actually thought at the start of this season she'd win a Group 1 Voracious. I do use it some 10 to follow competition. I put her in because I thought, stout 4-year-old filly. I thought this filly would win a Group 1, but the way she's been finishing her last 2 races, it's impossible to really. They put a tongue tie on last time. It suggested that she made a noise first time. There's no real indication that softer ground's what she needs. And you, as a punter, you're kind of scratching your head as to why she's not finishing her races. But she's the one I think could win or be nowhere. And it wouldn't surprise me if she did win. But Rawdar is the one I'd be really keen on.
Any thoughts on I Can Fly from either of you as well, just so we can cover off the top end of the market?
She's got loads of talent. I think she's very much ground dependent on herself. I don't think she'd want it too extreme. She has run well course here before though, beyond Roaring Lion. I mean, she runs up to that level. There's a chance. The only reason I'm leaning towards the other two at the price is obviously I massive respect Roy. I mean, I've talked about that race at Kempton in glowing terms, but she's yet to run at Ascot, and the other two have. We've talked about on this podcast for quite a while now about horses that have got great Ascot form, and they come back time and time again. It's like the Cheltenham form, isn't it? You avoid it at your peril. I like the fact that Agritera's got good C and D here, a good CV here, and Preening's run well here before as well. So at least they've got Ascot form, whereas Rawdar hasn't. So that would be my only negative if I was going to find a negative.
So Rawdar 4-1, popular with Mike, but at least that's that race. You're all taking it out of that one Kempton race. That's okay. It's an easy one.
Between the two is hopefully we've nailed the winner.
So Rawdar for Mike at 4-1, Agritera 8-1 each way. That's with 365 or Hills. Although Ladbrokes do go 4 places and they are 7-1, and then Preening at 25-1. That is with Hills and Unibet, who are both 3 places. On now to the Royal Hunt Cup. We have New Graduate is the 6-1 favourite and the only single figure price horse in the race. Settle for Bay Robin of Navan and Raising Sandal 14-1, Seniority 16-1, Kinran 16-1, Key Victory 20-1, Morden 20-1, 25-1 Bar. I'll open this up to the table and let you guys pluck out a couple for this minefield.
I don't mind going for. I like 2 in here. I think the weather will play a hand. If it was one horse, I think it's probably worth backing regardless. But if it was to end up being good to firm, you'd be a bit dubious. His Raising Sand obviously goes very well here. The slight caveat is he's drawn 25, or is he drawn 32?
32, isn't it?
32. I think he's going to be dropped in, ridden for luck. I'm not sure that's necessarily ideal. And then on the other hand, the favourite, as you say, New Graduate's been given stall 1, and that's not ideal as well. I think he looks short in stall 1. But I'm going to put one up at, and if this is assuming they don't get the deluge, but this horse has got a big chance, and this is Shui Feng, who won the race in 2017. He was disappointing last year in the race, but at the same time, he'd also been second in the Victoria Cup off a mark of 106. He was obviously not going to make a stallion, so over the winter they gelded him, gave him a wind up, and he was ridden as if this was his target. Last time at Goodwood, he ran in a handicap. I thought he ran very well. He travelled well, he did everything right, and you could tell he just got tired off his big weight then. He's got course form, he's won the race before, and at 33-1, if it doesn't rain, because I wouldn't want it to be soft for him, I think he's got a really big chance. This is one of these races where nothing's really got that much in hand, apart from really New Graduate, but there's so many negatives for him being in stall 1. And his lack of experience that I'd be happy to take him on at the prices, to be honest. And yeah, Zhui Feng, if it didn't rain, and I think if it was to rain, if it was to come up soft, Raising Sand, I'd really fancy him each way, something like 6 places each way.
Well, Ladbrokes currently 6 places on Zhui Feng at 33-1, and Raising Sand is currently 14-1. That's with Betfair and Paddy Power, who are both 5 places. Ladbrokes 6 places is 12-1. Andy, are you going to give us a couple as well?
Yeah, I think New Graduate's a poor favourite. Yes, he was impressive on the eye at Ripon, fast time and all that. Fayez the third has won twice since, I think. So there's nothing wrong with that. But he's gone from mark of 90 to 105, and he's drawn stall 1. You'd be a brave man if you thought you were thinking about having the crown jewels and that at 5-1.
Yeah,
you can find better 5-1 shots at this meet than that one. And I haven't got 30 runners to worry about. Yeah, but you put it into context, it's the same price as Crystal Ocean. Yeah. I think Raising Sands has got to run well here. Massive eye catcher last time out. Loves the track. Be lovely for Nicola Curry to get the leg up on this and to be. I think it's only the second female jockey to ever ride a winner at Ascot. Is that something? I think that's a stat that's flying around at the moment. And the other one that caught my eye last time was Robin of Navan. Obviously, 1 or 2 shrewd judges have mentioned this one in dispatches, but he was a massive eye catcher at Newbury. I think he would have won with a clear run that day. He was literally stuck in behind a wall of horses and couldn't go anywhere. But his third, the time before that, could not have worked out any better. Now you're looking at, is the group horse lurking in a handicap scenario? I mean, this surely is it. He's got beat 3 lengths by Zaki, who I think won a Group 3 at Epsom the other week, and Barney Roy was second. I mean, what price would Zaki and Barney Roy be in here off a mark of 105? The answer to that is probably very short. Even Circus Couture, who was beaten 14 lengths, has bolted up since. Yeah. So arguably that is the best form line, I think, coming into the race. And that was at Ascot on the straight track. It wasn't like it was just anywhere. So he's got solid course and distance form. He's drawn right in the middle, which gives Yorshire Murphy a chance to go either side. I don't think it's a race to be too dogmatic about at this very moment in time until we've seen the draw pan out, see where the best ground is, see what the right happens to the weather. But we get a good chance of looking at it in the first race on the Wednesday. With the big field for Queen Mary, 28 runners. So if you're prepared to keep your powder dry and wait and then make your bet after that, if you've got another 2 hours before the 5 o'clock, I think Robin and Navan and Raising Sand are the 2 I'd be looking at.
And for Robin and Navan, what would be ideal conditions?
I think he's all right with anything, to be honest.
Okay, so not necessarily. You can probably take the 14s now. Really, 6 places.
I think Robin of Navan for me is just one of these horses which always shapes well and then just never does it.
Yeah,
he hasn't won for years now, I think. But
yeah,
maybe Racing Sand's the same though.
A couple of 14-1 shots as well, and then Jury Feng, an interesting one at 33s. On to the last race of the day, and it is the Windsor Castle. Temple of Heaven is 7-1. Favourite Foolish Humour and Karak next up at 10-1. Dylan de Vega 12-1. Summer Sand 16-1. Red Epaulette 16-1. 20-1 bar. Again, a bit of a minefield, so I'll let you guys take it on and tell us where to have a look.
There's one horse in this race, I was talking to Mike earlier, that has probably got the most talent in it, but he could just fall into I'm a little bit of a monkey category, and that's Southern Hills. On both occasions when he's run, he's looked a very smart horse, particularly last time out he came up against a horse called Air Force Jet in a very fast time at Navan. The pair of them pulled 15 lengths clear of the rest. And he went a couple of lengths clear, looking as though he got the race in safekeeping. But unfortunately, he decided that enough was enough about half a furlong from the line, and on that stiff climb to the line, he got run out of it by Joseph O'Brien's horse. But I think if they can hold on to him as long as possible, up the stand side rail and deliver him late, he almost needs Jamie Spencer on him just to kind of ride him that way. I think he'll have a chance, certainly of running in the first 3 or 4. I was quite taken by a horse called Ray Young when that won at Carlisle on debut. There was a horse in that race called Spartan Fighter, Declan Carroll's horse, who clocked a phenomenal time next time out when he won at Ripon, and he was battered by Ray Young first in that race. Even though that time figure wasn't brilliant on the day, because they said the subsequent form of it has worked out really well, and I like the way he quickened. And Carl Burke is certainly not frightened of having winners at this meeting, particularly 2-year-olds. So early days yet. Symbolised is another one I'd probably throw into the mix. She was quite good when she won at Salisbury first time out. But yeah, probably again a race I'd leave to the day.
Well, Southern Hills, you flagged up 14-1. Rayon currently 20-1. Mike?
I think it's incredibly open. I wouldn't have a strong opinion other than I think Temple of Heaven's a very smart horse, and I think he'll run very well. But I don't think I'll be having a bet in the race.
Fair enough. Temple of Heaven currently 7-1. No point tipping up something if there's no real fancy. So that brings us to a close on Wednesday. Thank you very much to both Andy and Mike for joining me. We're previewing the whole week's racing. So if you've enjoyed this, if you've enjoyed listening to it or watching it, you can find it on YouTube as well. But make sure you check out the other previews for the rest of the week, because we are going through every race and every card for the whole of Royal Ascot.